Put your hands together one time. I want you to get together. I want you to get together.
Hello everyone, today we're going to continue with one of my previous videos about Pepe the Frog. This meme which was very, very popular throughout 2016 in the build-up to Donald Trump's election and the campaign against Hillary. Someone sent me this in the comments section and I appreciate it greatly. But someone's made a website dedicated to Pepe the Frog and the cult of Kek. Now, the original video I mentioned that there was an Illuminati playing card called the Frog God. And as you can see here, it's described as the idols are both frightening and silly, and no one knows why the masters keep them around. And Pepe the Frog was devastating in its effects on the campaign in swaying opinion towards Donald Trump. So frightening is a good way to describe it, but it's extremely silly, as it says here. It's a joke, it's a satirical meme. I think someone here has already added Pepe the Frog to it. So there we go, this is real to some extent. Now whether or not this is a spiritual message or an example of them intentionally programming us to create Pepe the Frog in some way is unclear, but it's uncanny that this is a card which was made in '95 and then Pepe the Frog would appear with ties to gods. And this website basically lays that out straight for you here. So we'll scroll down and we'll have a read about what this person has compiled in regards to the story behind the cult of Kek and Pepe the Frog. So I'll start reading now. I'll cut right to the chase. Pepe the Frog isn't a white nationalist symbol. Pepe the Frog isn't a harmless meme propagated by teenagers on the internet. Pepe the Frog is, in fact, the modern-day avatar of an ancient Egyptian deity accidentally resurrected by online image board culture. Does that sound like the most craziest thing you've ever heard? Strap in, friendo. You're in for one hell of a ride. When memes collide, the origins of Pepe the Frog. The precise origins of Pepe the Frog are, like all image board memes, obscure and unimportant. All you really need to know is that sometime around 2010, a sad-looking cartoon frog began to trend among posters on 4chan.org and similar underground image boards. Shortly after the age-old piece of online vernacular used to express laughter, lol, fell out of favour on these sites. In its place, a new slang term of synonymous meaning rose to common use: Kek. The origins of this trend are much more important. It comes from an odd technicality involving the Korean language and the popular video game of World of Warcraft. Keep that in mind for later. And so, just like that, two seemingly unrelated elements that would later give life to a deity were arranged in piecemeal fashion. But they remained dormant for several years, up until the Donald Trump and the 2016 election. By this time, Pepe the Frog had become the unofficial mascot for 4chan's political discussion board, a highly despised corner of the internet fittingly entitled Politically Incorrect. Pol is a place where the unspoken outsiders of millennial culture gather en masse. Here you'll find the lonely and depressed and socially inept and generational dropouts and all shades of disenfranchised youth, every one of them united with an unshakable underdog mentality that pervades the forum's every kilobyte. To call this place a white nationalist or alt-right message board is categorically incorrect. Pol, above all else, is a place where our society's status quo is mercilessly challenged. It's a melting pot for well-meaning free thinkers and misguided madmen alike. It is a place of chaos. So when Donald J. Trump strolled onto the political scene in 2015, it was a match made in heaven. He immediately became Paul's candidate of choice. And it wasn't long before Trump was mated with Paul's beloved mascot in typical image board fashion. And then, something very strange began to happen. The digits declare a deity. One last thing you need to understand about image board culture. Dubs. Every post on 4chan and similar venues come with an 8-digit numerical stamp. This number represents that post's entry position in the entire posting lineage of the image board. With the amount of traffic these sites get, the last couple of digits of this number are essentially a random roll. When a poster gets repeated digits, it's called dubs, trips, quads, and so on. Since a poster can't know their number until after they've submitted the post, it's common for people to bet the contents of their message on the occurrence of repeating digits, like so. So in an example here, this person says this post will end in duples, and his original post did 7-7. Then this person got 4-4, and this person got 9-9, and this person got 2-2. The odds of this happening are pretty slim, to say the least. So when it does happen, it seems like they go insane with happiness in some way. So it says here, when the endeavour proves successful, a get has been made and the stroke of luck is celebrated. Out of this practice, a strange phenomenon began to take place on Poll. Discussion threads associated with Trump displayed noticeably frequent gets. So it says here, they're bringing drugs, they're bringing crime, they're rapists, quoting Donald Trump on Mexicans here, I believe, and parodying it. And this guy adds, and they're bringing dubs, and he got dubs. So, that's a big deal on 4chan. It wasn't long before all of these seemingly random elements discussed so far became irreparably tied together within image board culture. Pepe the Frog, now Paul's unofficial mascot. Donald Trump, Paul's overwhelming candidate of choice. Repeating digits, post numbers, gets for short, and kek, used as an expression of delight, particular in response to Trump's trolling of the establishment, as well as in reaction to unlikely gets in general. And thus, a god was born. And here's an event where it happened, 77764, 77672, he put Jesus lives, and then this guy posted, Trump will win, and he got all sevens. 7 is the most powerful magic number. And that's true. I believe 7 is the number of God. 777 is also the number of God as well, biblically speaking. 666, the number of man and the beast. So when this happened, people obviously got very excited. Here's where it starts to get weird. The queer coincidence of kek. Soon, it became all the rage on Paul to hail Trump as nothing less than God's chosen candidate. But which God's chosen candidate exactly? I agree. The answer is obvious. Kek. Remember how we learned that kek, the meme, came about from an obscure Korean language onomatopoeia, completely independent from Pepe the Frog? Well, it turns out kek also, as always has been, an ancient Egyptian deity. A frog-headed one. And here's a picture of Kek. Or Heket is another name for this person as well. Quite the coincidence, wouldn't you say? A little, perhaps you reply. A little indeed. But that's just the very tip of the synchronicity iceberg. That's just where this unfathomable string of coincidences began. And where it ends, we just don't know. Day by day, this all gets stranger. The second major little coincidence can be found when one looks into what Kek stood for among the ancient Egyptian pantheon. Kuk, also spelled as Kek or Keku, is the deification of the primordial concept of darkness in ancient Egyptian religion. Like all four dualistic concepts in the Ogdoad, Kuk's male form was depicted as a frog or a frog-headed man, and the female form as a snake or a snake-headed woman. I guess you could also imagine Medusa as a symbol for this as well when you think about this. As a symbol of darkness, Kuk also represented obscurity and the unknown, and thus chaos. Also, Kuk was seen as that which occurred before light, thus known as the bringer in of light. The same metaphor for Lucifer, if you know your biblical concepts. And who else at this point had been declared a bringer of light into the world by enthusiastic supporters, mainstream and image board alike? Donald Trump. It gets even weirder. Kek's hieroglyphic spelling in ancient Egyptian, it bears an undeniable resemblance to a certain something. And here it looks like a man using a computer with a DNA strand behind him. Like, say, to post on an image board. And so, the cult of Kek, aka meme magic, took concrete form. This new digital faith is summed up neatly in this image, passed around on all major image boards of the day. And obviously I showed you this in my last video, how they place it all together, and you can see how the frog has been throughout history relatively and memed to death in recent years. Kek, the god of chaos. Now it gets weirder. Pepe, Keke, emerges in plain sight on September the 11th, 2016. Now Paul's users were, quite seriously, directly attributing all strokes of luck for the Trump campaign, and likewise all strokes of misfortune for Hillary's campaign, to the benevolent frog-headed deity that spoke to them in dubs. That all came to a head on September the 11th, 2016, when three major mind-blowing events transpired within 48 hours of each other. Number 1. Hillary Clinton fainted, or nearly fainted, in New York. The overwhelming sentiment of Paul, still reeling from the event, is captured 2 days later in this post. So this person made a post where he said, "Please stop. I didn't believe in meme magic at first. I thought you were all joking. Then Trump won his first primary and I thought, that's a coincidence. Then he became the candidate and I thought things were getting weird. Now Hillary is getting sick and the media is talking about Pepe. It's clear as day your memes are messing with the fabric of reality. Stop, please, I beg you. You're messing with powers you don't understand. If you keep this up, you could meme us all out of existence." So, you know, it's a relatively satirical joke when he posts these things, but at the same time, I think they were being serious. They were literally seeing their meme, which they created, become mainstream news. Hillary's campaign being destroyed and Trump rising to power. Number 2. But, and let's note this person's post number. He is 33. So when he posted about this meme magic, dubs did appear. So number 2. Hillary Clinton literally declares Pepe the Frog an enemy of the state with paper-thin reasoning. Here's the short version. Pepe is a cartoon frog who began his internet life as an innocent meme enjoyed by teenagers and pop stars alike, but in recent months Pepe's been almost entirely co-opted by the white supremacists, who call themselves the alt-right. They've decided to take back Pepe by adding swastikas and other symbols of anti-Semitism and white supremacy. What can I, or anyone else, hope to add here? How bizarre does reality get? How deep does the rabbit hole go? Oh, I see how deep. Number 3. Really weird. Kek, Pepe's musical anthem, is discovered on YouTube. Now get a load of this one. While all of this was happening, one or a few anonymous 4chan contributors discovered an old track from the 80s on YouTube, a track sampled all over with a very similar face. So we have Magic Sound, in reference to meme magic and the frog being involved in this meme magic with his wand. Chaudelet, instrumental version by Pepe. Point emerging, probably entering is what Pepe stands for. And this is long before Pepe the Frog was even in existence. That's right, folks. A B-side vinyl by performer Pepe, sporting a frog with a magical wand. A frog. And what does Pepe stand for? Point emerging, probably entering. Probably. What's our sweet repeating digit gets all about? Probability. What is this gist of Kekism on Pol? He speaks to them through dubs. The ancient Egyptian god of obscurity and chaos emerges, enters at points of probability. Feels like that's a stretch? Check out what the full-length vocal version's album artwork is adorned with. Don't see the significance? Let 4chan help you. So here you have a post of the clock outside of Trump Tower, with dubs added. Here's a similar looking clock face with a blonde haired male staring at the clock with Pepe underneath. So they want to say this is Donald Trump with his clock and Pepe all being linked together. Trump will have his time thanks to Pepe, I suppose you could see it as. But this is in the 80s, long before any of this ever happened. Okay, what the hell is going on? Most likely, chaos magic. You see, one of the core tenets of chaos magic practice, the only mainstay really, is the creation of magic sigils, also called glyphs, to codify and project one's will onto the universe. I made a video about sigils and sigil magic. I had a friend who was very much into it. So I understand that this is a form of magic and it can work. It's quite powerful if done correctly. Basically, you make an image that represents your will, desire fueled by powerful emotions or altered states, and the universe will take care of the rest. When a lot of people pool their united willpower towards a single sigil, it's called a hypersigil, and it's exponentially more potent. Pepe is 4chan's hypersigil. Millions of the little people that browse 4chan have embedded the image of Pepe with their hatred for Hillary's alleged corruption, and the hope for Trump's victory over her in November. Whether they did this consciously or not, it's exactly what happened. And so far, the hypersigil seems to be working. Hold up, you're telling me magic is real? Absolutely I am. But you must understand, magic probably isn't what you think it is. It's not about wand waving or pentagrams or sacrificing babies, although it is about this last one in satanic circles. He may not know this. I doubt he's trying to lie to you, but that does happen sadly. Magic is actually much less involved than that, like I said. Often it is as involved as this. As a matter of fact, you're casting magic right now. You pretty much always are, whether you like it or not. That's because real magic comes from plain and simple human attention. How you look at reality shapes it in ways we are only now beginning to fully understand. Ironically, the science of quantum physics is rapidly bringing the reality of magic to light. Chaudelet. Then he plugs his book here, selling this idea a little bit more, of course. So what happens next? Most likely, Keck will continue to grow in power and continue to oppose Hillary Clinton and the corrupt political establishment. Will the Lord of Light win out over the powers that be? We shall find out very soon. What can I do to help? Meme. Spread this around on social media. So in summary of this, mimetic magic or meme magic, this concept of chaos magic is nothing new. There is nothing new under the sun. This is been happening for years. Language is magic, essentially, and language and symbols and words, spelling, casting spells is simply spelling a word, does influence people's opinions and minds and can therefore influence reality. This is what magicians and true wizards and warlocks have always known magic to be. It's only been trivialized and occulted thanks to films like Harry Potter, which make you think it's waving wands around and shooting sparks at people. As you can see, it's a little bit more complicated than that. So here's Pepe being linked as a mage or magician in some way. So we'll look at the Trump follow-up post he made here. The smug Pepe meme sure makes a lot of sense now that Trump has won. The mainstream media just couldn't wrap their heads around that slippery Pepe the Frog. They must have sensed that their readers were baffled with Hillary's fixation on the little green fella. Once more, it was very apparent, at least to the rest of us, that the public at large wasn't swallowing Madam President's fascist cartoon mascot narrative. The topic was trending, Google searches were peaking, and the value of 4chan's rare Pepe stock had never been higher. What an opportunity for professional journalists. Now, rare Pepes, just to bear in mind, are Pepe the Frogs from the past, which people are finding in artwork and, for example, that album we just saw. Now, there's only one problem. To satiate the market's demand for the real story on Pepe, the mainstream media journalists would need to actually do their jobs. Me, a mainstream journalist, track down the real story of an icky evil racist thing? They cried, shocked, triggered and appalled at the idea. Not gonna happen. After all, I might get offended. So in the last-ditch effort to avoid soiling their hands with nasty-wasty white people stuff, one mainstream media hydra head turned the Pepe the Frog's original creator, Matt Fury, to spoon-feed them the answers that their readers were craving instead. To absolutely nobody's surprise, Mr. Fury, a proud Hillary supporter, was also largely clueless about the underground internet subculture that co-opted his character 8 years ago, but at one point he was lucid enough to almost hit on what was going on. Sort of. So here's a quote from the actual creator of the original cartoon Pepe the Frog comes from. One of the mutations of Pepe, he's gone through happy to sad to all these different things, to people remixing it in these different ways. I think the smug version of Pepe, which is just him having a smug look on his face with a thumb under his chin, that one was kind of adopted into the Trump supporters campaign or whatever, and kind of encompasses the archetype of a smug character. I think Donald Trump is kind of a cartoon character himself, so I think it was just a natural thing, maybe to appeal to younger people or something. End quote. Maybe to appeal to young people or something. Well, that's a pretty weak attempt at explaining smug Pepe, in my opinion. But if a few years ago you had asked me to explain why the ever-forlorn frog was suddenly so puffed up, I couldn't have done much better. The widespread confusion over Pepe's evolution into smug Pepe at the hands of 4chan, long before candidate Trump for the 2016 election came along, mind you, was actually built into a meme. A chorus of "Why so smug, Pepe?" rang out on 4chan wherever the gloating green face was posted. For years, no one really had an answer. Well, now we do. In typical meme magic fashion, the answer was secretly that only the future could reveal, and an outcome that nobody could predict. Once again, here it is, right under our noses the whole time, waiting patiently for us to look back and say, that's a really weird coincidence now that X has happened, isn't it? Just like the hieroglyphs, just like the Pepe song, just like the rest of the unlikely Pepe the Frog related flukes I first wrote about. Just one more magic Pepe for the file. So what now? You mean, what's next for Pepe and Kek and stalwart me magicians of 4chan's politically incorrect? Once again, the answer is probably right in front of us, but only time will tell. Personally, I'm hoping that the mainstream media's fountain of butthurt keeps flowing, and that we see a smooth transition into comfy Pepe for the remainder of Trump's reign. And here's comfy Pepe enjoying his Christmas. But a god of chaos works in mysterious ways, so I'm not betting on it. Speaking of chaos, Trump's new president-elect status alone has seeded a fair share of entropy, hasn't it? Protests abound, monuments being vandalised, and entire political systems being called into question. It would seem as though Kek's work has only just begun. But what is his end game? Surprisingly, the more I and the rest of Paul interact with Kek, the more likely it seems that this entity does in fact have a clear ending in mind. I agree, Lucifer does have a very clear ending in mind. To destroy the old systems and rebuild the new. That's the New World Order. So rest assured that I'll continue to share where this whole thing is headed as it develops. Hint, keep an eye on France in 2017. We have obviously a French election coming up soon, and Marine Le Pen is a very nationalist candidate, and I assume Pepe may be linked to her in the future, something to bear in mind. In the meantime, there's a plenty of already established territory I haven't even started to cover, like the intricate poll prophecy that goes far beyond the election of President Trump, or that one-time 4chan meme magicked a new Ebola outbreak into existence. All that crap is coming, and you can keep an ear to the ground on this supernatural show by following me on Twitter. And hey, since I'm already shilling, why not check out my book as well, blah 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 blah. So fascinating, this person, it's a bit of a joke what he's written here, essentially, but he's also being deadly serious. He has pointed out the bizarre narrative of Pepe the Frog and how it came into existence, the bizarre links Pepe the Frog seems to have to Egyptian gods, and in the manipulation of culture and people's minds. Spiritually speaking, is Pepe the Frog a manifestation of the frog god, which the Illuminati know full well about? Is it a manifestation of a Nephilim Chimera hybrid, perhaps, which was worshipped as a god in the past in Egypt, coming back through the ether, the internet, to manipulate reality once more? It seems relatively insane to say such a thing, but these connections are uncanny. It's one of the most bizarre symbols to have such an effect on society since the swastika, essentially. But it's not racist in itself. And it's relatively harmless in and of itself. Now, we have to look at this through spiritual eyes, people. We don't wrestle against flesh and blood, we wrestle against spiritual forces and spiritual wickedness in high places. Pepe the Frog, I believe, does represent the frog god. The coming back of the frog god to manipulate people, manipulate reality, and prepare them for a coming new age, which may be a very satirical place, a very funny, troll-ridden society, essentially. A world of anything goes, and a world of magic, in quotes. So I thought I'd bring this website to your attention. I'll leave links below so you can go check it out yourself and have a read and have a look around. Just something else to add on to the Pepe the Frog connection. I hope you enjoyed the video, and enjoy the rest of your day, guys. Thanks for listening.
I want you to get together. I want you to get together.